Alright guys, today we are working on the irrigation system for our garden. I'm digging we're going to dig a trench starting back where I have water, and we're going to put a new hose spigot down by the trees, and we're going to have 4 different zones. One's going to be the trees, one will be this side, one will be the hoops, and then one's actually going to be the area behind the hoops. We're going to do above ground sprinklers for the big fields. I guess they're not big, they're small, but the field areas. And then the hoops will be drip and the trees will be drip. Let's go ahead and I'm going to use a tractor for this trench because the dirt here is pretty full of clay and it's hard to dig with a shovel. So I'm going to go ahead and use a tractor. So found out as I was digging here for the irrigation system, when the company that we hired to level this, I guess y'all probably don't know that this used to be all dirt piles, just dump trucks dumped it. And so we paid a company to come in here with a big dozer and get it all level and grade it slightly one direction so that water can kind of flow off as it rains. But they hit this and broke it, but it had broken underground. So I went ahead and dug a big hole. You can kind of see right there the white spot, that's my sewer line that runs, and then this clean out came down right here and tied into the sewer line. And so they broke it at the clean out, the two-way clean out. So what I'm gonna have to do is dig a big area out by it with shovels right under here so I can replace the two-way clean out and get our sewer system working correctly again. So let's go ahead and get it done. Alright guys, so to be honest, I completely forgot to record me fixing this. So what I did is I took another two-way clean out, which is this piece in the middle, and then I put, so those are two the rubber couplings, and what I did is I cut I guess a 6-inch piece, so there's a 2-inch overlap that goes into the two-way clean out and then comes out 4 inches, which is the same length as those couplings. And so I put the couplings on, and then I cut a section of the pipe that was the exact same length as the clean out and those 2 4-inch pieces, and then I just put that in, slid those couplings out, and then tightened them down, and then I just put on this top piece cut to length, and now I just got to put the cap on and backfill, and we can keep working on the irrigation system. Alright guys, so now that we have all the trenching dug, I'm going to go ahead and tie in to the existing water line, which I planned ahead for, knowing that we were going to put the garden here when I ran these water lines. I put a T at the bottom of this and then just put a cap at the end. So now we'll go ahead and release the pressure in the line, and it will fill up a little bit more with water. So I'm going to pump it out, and then I'll pump it out one more time once I'm done. shovel. I'm gonna dig this a little deeper than it needs to be because there is so much sloppy mud in here. I want these fittings to all be nice and clean as I put them together. That way it'll be less likely to ever fail. It didn't rain last week, probably wouldn't have to dig so deep, but because it's so wet, we got like 3 inches of rain or so. I'm gonna have to do it this way. So what I'm going to do is, as the clean water flows out, because this is the lowest point on my water line, I'm actually going to use that clean water to clean my hands and clean all this, the piping around it. That way it's really, really clean. Okay, so I'm actually going to lean this because technically this is considered a potable water line because it does attach to the same water line without a backflow preventer from where it's going to go on our house. I do want to make sure that there's no dirt in it, so we will flush this for 5 minutes after we because there will be a hose bib at the end. I'll flush it from the hose bib at the end, and that'll get any chunks of dirt out. We do have 2 options when installing PVC, and at least in my area, it stays up to code. 1, you can use thread tape, or 2, you can actually prime these, which will heat up the threads, and then it'll shape to the female threads down in that fitting. Because there's so much water down there, I'm going to use thread tape. Alright, so I've got the thread tape on. So what I'm gonna do is measure. I know this needs to be about 4 inches in length before I come up with the 90. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this on, and then just one less fitting I have to put on in the hole. It'll be much easier to do the whole portion. So another thing, I'm putting this fitting on while all that water drains out, as I don't want to be working in a pool of water, so I'm going to let most of it drain out, and then once it does drain out, I'll be able to pump the hole out one more time before actually installing this. So you want to make sure and prime all your fittings for good 20 to, well, you're supposed to, I think, for 40 seconds. That's what code is. And then you never want to install or place the glue on dry primer, so you want to make sure you keep it wet. What I'll do is push it on and then do a quarter turn and then hold it for 15 seconds. And then you have all these burrs that come when you cut it like this, and you want to make sure and get them all off and ream it so it's slightly beveled. That way when water flows, there's no, on the inside, so when water flows, if there is anything in the water, it doesn't catch and build up, such as sediment or anything. On sewer systems, you have hair and what have you that you don't want it to catch either. But the outside's important as well, because that prevents the burrs from scratching the part of the pipe that it goes in, or the fitting that it goes into. If it scratches, it can actually cause an issue with how the glue sets, and then it could be a year or 5 years but eventually it could cause that fitting to fail and you'll have bigger issues later down the road. So just take the extra time, do it right. I don't want to put the 90 on until this fitting is installed completely, because I don't know which way is going to be up just yet. So I'm going to set that aside. Looks like 95% of the water has drained from the pipe, so I'm going to go ahead and pump it. So I'm just going to tighten it. You don't want to over tighten this, as you can break the threads or you can strip it out. So you want it tight, but not too tight. You'll always want to pressure test. You always want to pressure test everything before you fill in all the trenches. That way, you know, if this needs tightened or something, I can address it then, not once I find, you know, a big old puddle of water that shouldn't be there, that's constantly there, you know, even in the dry times of the year. It's not a bad idea to carry a rag on you while working in the mud. But I forgot one today, so we'll just use my shirt for now and wash it. So if you do happen to get the primer wet, it is important to shake it off and get any water off of it, because it'll ruin the actual primer in the can, and then you waste the whole can, not just that little bit that you shake off. So again, you push it on, quarter turn, hold for 15 seconds. Okay, now again, I'm going to make sure this end is beveled, just like the other end I did, both inside and outside. I know people who don't bevel the outsides or and some people that don't bevel the insides. The way I was trained by my master plumber, he says bevel both, and it's in many areas it's code, so while they can't see it, they'll ask you, and if you know, that's between you and God if you want to lie. All right, so this way you have two options. One, you can lay a pipe this way and get the height there, or two, you can put the pipe down in there and install it and then cut it to height. I am going to opt to lay this pipe in place roughly. I don't want that about right there. So 9 inches. We're going to go 11 and 5/8. So you can mark it with a Sharpie, or a lot of times on these shorter ones, I'll just hold my finger there until I'm ready to cut. It's when you're looking at your cut, you want to make sure this is pretty flat. There's you know, a little bit of leeway that it's never going to be 100% perfect unless you use a chop saw, but you want it to be really, really close to perfectly square, because that way it's going all the way in the fitting, and again, that's more surface area for it to grab, so less likely to fail. Now I'm going to hold up pressure while I push down, so I don't break or bend or force anything in a direction it doesn't want to go. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing here. Put this elbow in. And so the reason this isn't buried with 12 inches of cover is because we're actually right behind the camera. There's a pile of dirt and that's all going here. So that's why this section is not normal covered, ground coverage to be up to code, but it will be. Ooh. Alright, so I got all the 4 valves that are going here set up, mostly. So we have the valve, we have a backflow preventer and a pressure reducer right here, which will prevent any water from going back up towards the house ever. If, you know, and any of these hoses that will have drippers on them, if that dripper is in muddy water or, you know, we compost, which is manure in it, and then we lose pressure in the house when, let's say, our neighbor's house goes on, lights on fire, if the fire department opens up you know, their truck to put the fire out, that actually sucks all the water out. Most of the newer meters that over at the street do have backflow preventers, or actually check valves in them already, but just in case ours doesn't, I want to always be sure that we're not sucking up that manure water into our house water system, because it's gross. But so what I did here is, it's kind of a cluster in this one. So I'm coming in here with a T right here, and then I split off and go to this valve. This valve is going to be our timer for these 4. This is a battery operated. They say this lasts like about 6 months on 2 batteries or 3 batteries, whatever it is. This just, your valves plug in at the bottom, and it's all waterproof, and then you can, you know, put this however you want it. on that, and you can, each zone's different. And then on the other way, it comes over and then gets into this, it's a manifold which goes into 3 different valves, which these will, I'm changing out these. These will all come off, and I'll put these new ones that have the plug on it on. And they got this, these 3 are gonna go this direction, and then they'll continue on. And one will be for the hoops, one will be for the, I guess the field over there. And then down there, at the end of this trench, there will be another line which is teed off here, which is not on the valve yet. That'll go to a hose bib that I'm gonna put there, as well as another meter, which will be this one, just one of these, which will be for our trees.